Hello and welcome to the section on setting up the environment. In this section, you're going to set up your system with PHP, and then you're going to understand what type of installation available and what softwares you can use to write your PHP code. I'll show how to install PHP on Mac and also how to install PHP on Windows. And after that, we will also learn how to start writing our PHP code. So let's look at the section objectives. After completing this section, you will be able to differentiate between different types of PHP installation software. This will help you understand to pick your own software available, and there are different terms that has been used during PHP installation which will not confuse you after you understand this. Next, we will configure PHP on Windows and also on the Mac. Then we'll choose our PHP editor. So whichever you feel that you have a license or whichever you have previously used for other programming languages that you're comfortable, you can start choosing your own PHP editor. I'll give you some option to choose and I'll show you which one I'm using for this course. Then we'll develop one Hello World program using PHP, introduce you to the PHP code, and I'll show you different types of writing in Hello World and how flexible the PHP language is. Then we'll understand how to write comments in PHP in different ways. This will be a starting point to understand PHP and its language. Then we'll start describing its syntaxes and we'll go into each of the topics in the upcoming sections. For this section, we will start with comments. Finally, there are a couple of exercises, there are interview questions, resources, and practical test. I believe if you're looking to get a job in PHP, you have to go through with all these exercises. Don't just skip it over, because it's not going to help you if you're just going to watch the videos and not going to do any exercises. So do the exercises, attend all the interview questions, there are practical tests available, do attend all those things. This will help you to improve your PHP knowledge and help you to write a better PHP program. Okay, so let's look into each of these lectures now. Welcome to the lecture on PHP installation softwares. So what we are going to do here is we are going to start looking at what type of installation stack is available and what type of softwares are available to support that stack. So if you're hearing stack for the first time, so this is a good section that you will learn all those things here. Okay, so let's move on to the topic. So the lecture objective, after completing this lecture, you will be able to differentiate various installation stack, and also you will explain the type of installation software that you can use to install on your local machine and then start writing the PHP program. So one thing before you start looking at these things, don't be confused with a stack and a software, right? Stack is basically combination of things. Software is basically a software that is available to download and install that application. Okay, so we'll look at first at the various installation stack. So let's look at the types of the installations stack that we have. First stack is called as LAMP stack, which is Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. Linux being the OS, Apache being the web server, MySQL being the database server, and PHP script is the scripting language. So these are individual components combined together to form a stack. And this stack is called as LAMP. So means if you build a web application and this web application is running on Linux, then you need a LAMP stack or LAMP stack. So in order to understand what is a LAMP stack is nothing but a combination of softwares together. Right? These are the softwares for different application and different purposes. Like at the OS level, what OS you are using. At the web server level, what web server you are using. And also at the database, you can choose to have different databases. And at the PHP script level, it is always be PHP. Okay. So this stack is called as LAMP stack. The next stack is called as MAMP stack, which is the web server, DB, and PHP script remains the same. The underlying OS will change. If the underlying OS is Mac, then it is called as MAMP stack. Also remember, stack is not software, is just an stack. Stack in the sense, if you are changing any of the components, let's say you're removing MySQL with something else, then it's no more called as MAMP stack. Whatever is that name here, you attach it to in the short form. But as of now, when someone says LAMP stack or MAMP stack, it is pretty much indicated that it is a Mac, it has Apache, it has MySQL, and it has PHP. Similarly, for Windows, you have WAMP stack. So WAMP, basically you have underlying OS as Windows, and rest of the components remain the same. Okay, this is a very standard stacks that is people use for PHP website development. And if you are choosing to have your web application running on Linux, then you need to have a LAMP stack installed on your machine. Similarly for Mac, if you are having a Mac OS book, then you should be looking at MAP stack, and if you are using a Windows, then you have to have a WAMP stack. So different softwares are available to install all these components together, because when you write PHP script, you might be connecting to a database. So this talk will help you to understand what kind of software is required for your website development. So I hope this is very clear from the stack perspective. Remember these names, because whenever you're going to go in the internet and start reading or downloading any software, they will talk about these three stacks: LAMP stack, MAMP stack, and WAMP stack. LAMP being the Linux, MAMP being the Mac OS, and WAMP being the Windows OS. Next, let's look at the software that is available in the market to support this stack. The first software is called as AMP. The AMP basically is a famous software that support all the three stacks. You can install LAMP, MAMP, and WAMP, right? Next is MAMP. This MAMP, don't get confused with the MAMP stack. MAMP is basically a software name. We're going to look into the website as well. This software supports Windows and Mac OS, and pretty much it is very famous in the Mac. So if you are using a MacBook, I highly recommend you use MAMP. XAMPP software, this software uses MariaDB instead of MySQL. WAMP is again for Windows, where you can install the WAMP stack. The recommended one are the two on the left hand side, AMPS and MAMP. Basically, AMPS will have all the stacks available. So it's a very good case where we can install the same software on Linux, Mac, and Windows. Where all the other three, some will support it, some will not be supported on all the three versions. So I highly recommend you install AMPS, and which I'll be showing you in the next section. And if you are using MacBook Pro and you do already been using MAMP for other reasons, so you can highly recommend to use MAMP. If you are on Windows and you want MySQL, then WAMP is the only option. XAMPP is also a good software, but the database is MariaDB software. We're going to look into this website now, and I'll show you the difference there. Okay, so let's head back and see these websites now. Okay, so I have opened all the four softwares. If you're using AMP stack, then which has WAMP, MAMP, and LAMP stack. Now you know what this means, right? And you have Apache, MySQL, MongoDB, PHP, Perl, and Python. Means when you install MAMP stack, you actually get all these things in your software already available. Means if you want to run Python code, Perl code, MongoDB already available and pre-packed into AMPS, right? If you want to have only the PHP based stack, that is the MAMP stack, then you can go to mamp.info, wherein you get the MAMP software, and this software works on Windows and also on Mac. Okay, next look at XAMPP. XAMPP is Apache, MariaDB, and PHP and Perl. So this is how the stack is organized. So if you install XAMPP, you basically get all these softwares, and notice that there is no MySQL here, and they have all these three versions available for Mac, Linux, and Windows. For WAMP, WAMP is for Windows. They clearly mentioned that this is a Windows based WAMP stack where you have Apache, PHP, and MySQL database, and then they have PHP MyAdmin as well. So on all those four software that has been available, I feel AMPS is much flexible and recommended from standards point of view, and it has much more options available and easy to work with because it has all the options of stack supported. Okay, so in this course I'll be using AMPS. So next section we'll be installing this software on Windows and Mac. Okay, so we have seen all the PHP installation software. So by now you should be able to differentiate various installation stack. So if you're hearing stack for the first time, it's all lies from whatever the components attached in that stack. Okay, it helps you to see if you are using a Windows based OS, then you need all the softwares for Windows. Alright, that's why the stack installation come in picture. The next is the types of the PHP installation software. We have seen all these things. We have seen 4 different softwares, and AMPS is a software we are going to install in the next section. Okay, so that's a summary for this lecture. So I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to Configure PHP on Windows. So I'm in the amps.com and let's install this software on Windows. So I'm on Windows now and I'm onto this site amps.com. So if you go to the main page, there's a download page. Click on downloads. The current version that I'm seeing now at time of recording is 3.8. Maybe when you watch this video, maybe there's a higher version. Go to Windows, download it. So I'll pause the video and we'll come back once the download has been done. Okay, so the download has been completed. So just want to bring your notice that there are two download buttons here for Windows. This is for Windows 10, 8 and 7 and Vista. You can download this. If you're using Windows Server 2008, then you use this download option. Okay, so I'm on Windows 10, so I click this button and I have downloaded software. So the software is downloaded. Double click it. Typically when you download from Chrome, it will be available in the downloads folder. Just double click it and then we'll start installing the software. Okay, so let's install our software now. So this is the welcome AMP setup wizard page. So I'll click next, accept the agreement, say next. And if you look at the agreement, you can see PHP, Apache, MySQL and everything will be installed for you on this machine. Click next, and most important thing, you should remember this path. Okay, typically what I do, I install in C:, I go to my PC, I can go and install C:, but I have a D drive. So the D drive or C drive, you can go and create a folder called amps. Okay, so this could be your C drive or this could be your D drive. Make sure it's a top folder. And then we'll install the amps here and say next, yes, and next. Then you'll create all the icons here, say next, and then install. So why do I do it is basically if you have program files 32-bit, 64-bit, it will be confusing. But if you install on amps, then you know that if you go to the main folder, you can go to amps folder and this is your installation directory. Anything you want to do, just select and delete this, then your software is deleted. So it's easy that to see where it has been installed. That's the one thing. And also if you want to do some changes in the configuration, you know it's on the top folder. You don't have to worry about going into program files 32-bit or 64-bit and all those things. So the software is installed. So click finish. This will launch the amps. If you don't click it, it will not launch it. So make sure it is ticked and say finish. So this will launch your software. So it's asking us to install something, say yes. Okay, make sure it's installed. I agree. Setup is completed, say close. Now if you see on the right hand side, I see a box here. Okay, this is basically the software that is saying is running or not. Okay, so the AMP software has been installed properly, and then you should be able to see Apache, PHP and MySQL. The couple of things that you need to do before you start using it. First thing, when you click on this box, you can change the PHP version to 5.6 or 7.1. So when you click 7.1 and go back, you should see 7.1 somewhere here, right? And then you should make sure it is in running mode. And first time your MySQL will be in stop mode. When you try to click it, maybe it's not working. There's a quick fix for it. There's a common issue with amps that MySQL is not working. You have to add this parameter in the configuration file. So I'm going to show you that. Copy this, go to amps, click on this gear button, then you can see this toolbox and you have to find MySQL and under it you have to add this file. There's nothing, is very simple. Just find it, Ctrl C, Ctrl V and then close it. Once you save this, you have to restart your AMP. Before that, there will be another problem that many people faced when installing amps. It's just a one-time activity. So there's one DLL that you have to install. That's basically the redistribute package for x86. Don't install 64-bit, install the x86 because AMPs run on 32-bit. Okay, once you do these two steps, the first step is when you click this, you will download this file. Let me show you that. You'll download this 86 one, that is 32-bit. Double click and install this. Just say yes, it'll install it. Because I've already installed, it's a repair. I don't want to do that. I'll cancel this. So when you install this and then you have to restart, just cancel it, or you can just go ahead and quit. Go find your AMPs and then you should be able to toggle between the MySQL. If you're not able to toggle, two things. First is you do the configuration, click on gear, open up this file, go to MySQL. This is one configuration. The other one is you have to download this package. That's basically DLL. If the DLL is already available, then you won't be seeing the issue that I'm seeing it here. But it's very a common issue, and I typically follow this method when I first time installed apps. Double click and run it, and you should be fine running with it. And make sure you change your PHP setting to 7. Okay, so make sure all the components in running mode. So let's open the home page now. Go to AMPs, right click on it. I'm using my mouse to right click on this icon. Then go to AMPs admin. That's your admin page for PHP. Then you go to home page. Right? Don't do anything as of now. Right? Just make sure you're able to access this 2 page. Okay? And if you have any issues that you cannot install, there's a couple of ways you can reach out to me. You can write a Q&A section. You can reach out to me there. There's a forum where we constantly discuss about any issues that we see in the entire PHP space. So you can go there, pick your topic of setting up the environment, and then push your screenshots there. We'll be there helping you out setting this up. Once you have this software up and running, you can do many things in this software. So this is a good starting point for you to start fresh and start with the right step. If you have once set up AMPs on your machine, there's no looking back. You can try out all the examples in PHP. Okay, highly recommended. Do this step. Make sure you install AMPs on Windows. Okay, next let's look at how to install AMPs on Mac machine. Okay, I also want to show you where I have kept those documents and the softwares in the material. So if you go to setting up the environment, if you go to AMPs, so if you have any issues that you see while installing the AMPs, go to Windows folder. Here is the link where you can find the settings, and also you install this on your Windows machine. So with this too, your MySQL should be up and running. And if you have any issues, you can go to forum.phpjobtraining.com where you can post your issues, and also you can engage me on the Q&A in the section, and then you can post your question there and I'll be happy to answer it and resolve your issues. Okay, so before you move on to the next step, make sure your PHP is installed, because if you're just watching the videos and there are too many exercises that is listed out, then you will not be able to do the exercises without a proper PHP installation. Okay, so make sure you have a proper installation before you move on. Welcome to the lecture on configuring the AMP software on Mac. So let's open the AMPs page. Click on downloads. Select the Mac OS and say download. We will download this software and then we will install the software. Okay, so download has been done. Let's click this. Okay, to install, drag and drop this application in the applications folder. So it will copy all the files and then you should be able to run the software. Okay, the installation has been done. So if you go to the AMPs folder in the application folder, you should be able to see this executable file. Just double click it and this will open up the AMPs. And if you see this error where it can't be opened, say okay. Go to your system preference, go to security and privacy, You can see it's asking you to verify the download. You can enter the password here, say unlock, and you can say open anyway. Okay, now you can open the software. Enter the password again. Okay, so AMPS is running here and you have no MySQL issue as we have seen in Windows. It's a good thing. So let's open our Safari and we'll create a new window and we'll try to access the AMPS here. Localhost /amps. Okay, so it's perfectly running. Not much changes that is required. The good thing about AMPS is when you have installed this in the Windows and in the Mac, you see the look and feel, everything is the same. You don't have to worry about Mac based configuration and Windows based configuration. That's the beauty of the apps. So if you see the icons and if you see the actions that we are doing it here, everything remains the same, right? This is what we have done, same thing in the Windows, the same thing we're going to do on the Mac as well. And whatever configuration we will do here is based via this web page. So this web page will be similar if you access via the Windows or via the Mac. If you're using Mac, go ahead and install Maps on your machine, and then you should be able to access this page, localhost /amps. Well, that's it about installing apps on the Mac. And if you like to know where you can drop your files, the PHP files, you can go to Finder, go to Applications, open the AMPS folder, and there's a folder www, the same folder that we have installed in D: in Windows. And the look and feel, everything remains the same. There are no changes. Whatever changes we are doing in Windows, you can come back to Applications folder, go to the AMPS folder, and you should be able to see all the same folders that we have seen in Windows as well. You should be able to see MySQL, you should be able to see PHP, Apache, and PHP MyAdmin, and obviously you will have a www folder wherein you will go and create a folders here. And once you start creating folders, in that folder you will be placing all your PHP files. Okay, so follow along the same steps what you are seeing here in the AMPS, and then you can pretty much able to do same thing on the Windows and on the Mac as well. Let's look at the next section. Welcome to the lecture on favorite PHP editor. This is basically a lecture which explains you about different types of PHP editor available in the market. So if you have a PHP editor already in mind, or you're basically having some experience with editors and you have your favorite one, then I highly recommend go with that, because it will give you more flexibility on how to edit the files, how to rename the files, and how to play around with the editor. But there are some favorites that's in the PHP community. I just want to bring you to the notice so that you can start using it if you are new to PHP and you haven't used editor before. So this will be a good guidance for you to see what favorite editors are available in the market. This will also differentiate between the two terms, which is IDE and code editor. And I'll show you the softwares from these two perspectives. Okay, so let's jump into the topic. So the lecture objective, after completing this lecture, you will be able to differentiate between code editor and IDE. You will be able to explain it, what is the difference between code editor and IDE. It's a very common question that people ask, whether you have used a code editor or IDE. If you don't know the difference, then it's very hard to explain that. Then I'll show you some favorite editors that I've picked from the market and which we'll be using as part of our course as well. Okay, so let's jump into the topic now. So let's look at the types of the editor, not the actual editors, but what are the types of it. So there are two types of editor. I've picked two editors. One is called as code editor, one is called as integrated development environment, which is IDE. The code editor is basically a simple notepad kind of application wherein you have to type everything yourself. It doesn't do autocomplete, it doesn't check for syntaxes, it doesn't do actually anything. It's basically a simple notepad where you can start open and start writing. If you don't want too much of help from the editor, then this option works well. Your IDE is actually good for learning as well, because IDE actually is an environment which actually compiles all the code on the fly. and it will give you some suggestions as well to see what options are available. So there's basically two part into it. You get to learn something and your code is compiled then and there, so you know whether whatever you're writing is correct or wrong. Wherein code editors, you don't know that until you compile it, and if you have an error, you have no clue with which line that error is. But if you're using an IDE, even while writing, you already know there's an error, so you can correct it then and there, and then you can save your time compiling and figuring out the errors. So next I'll show you the different types of editors that's available in the market. So first one is Sublime, then the Notepad++. These are called as code editors. So you can choose any of the two. If you don't want to install those heavy softwares and don't want all this autocomplete and code checks and everything, you just want a pretty simple notepad, then choosing any of these two softwares will help you on that. Next is the PHP editor and the NetBeans. These are called as IDE. I'll quickly show you the sites where you can go and download the softwares. So here are the softwares. The first is Sublime Text. If you go to www.sublimetext.com, this is the Sublime editor. You can use it to write the PHP code as well, and is very flexible tool and also very famous in the community. The next is PHP Storm. This is an IDE. This is one of the favorite and one of the famous IDE editor for PHP. If you are using for enterprise purpose, PHP Storm is the IDE. However, it's not free. You have to purchase a license to use it. The next code editor is Notepad++. It is very simple than Sublime, is also very flexible, and also it can do the color coding of your code as well. Then PHP Designer 8. It has HTML, CSS and JavaScript embedded as well. So you can show the syntax checks and you can also see the color coding for your code. Okay, and it has many other features as well. The next is the NetBeans. However, NetBeans is more famous with Java as well, but it does has the PHP support and C and C++ support. So if you are looking at an editor which has Java and PHP and other languages, then you can go to NetBeans and use this software. Okay, so let's summarize the lecture. So by now you should be able to differentiate between code editor and IDE, and make sure you remember this and don't make a mistake of confusing between any of these two words. Next is you will pick your favorite PHP editor. Okay, so let's move on to the next lecture. Okay, so next let's install the Sublime editor. Go to Sublime. Okay, so we are in the Sublime text homepage. Click download for Windows. If you're Mac, you can use download for Mac. So once download, we can start running the program to install Sublime on your local machine. Okay, so the installation has been completed. Let's install this. So it will ask you for a folder name. Just use your D or C colon, then it's easy to find. But typically for softwares, I don't do install on C colon or D colon. I prefer to have in program files, but for training purposes I do it in D colon. For you, don't change this, let it be like this. But for me too, if you have multiple notepads, I just have to have on D colon so that I can show you different versions of it. Okay, so I select Sublime on D colon, change the folder. You don't have to do it, you can install in the program files. You can add to the context menu, yes, add it, and then install. Okay, so Sublime has been done. So now you have an editor. Let's go to editor now. Sublime. You can right click on it, pin to taskbar. So Sublime is here. You can go to amps, right click on it, pin to taskbar. Okay, so now you have your Sublime. You can right click and open it. Your Sublime is here, and actually I have a license. I will add those license here, so you will not see unregistered. For you, you will see an unregistered here. If you have a license, you can go ahead and enter the license from help, enter license, and you can paste the license here. Okay, so let's do a quick check before you start writing the Hello World program. make sure you have Sublime installed. This is your editor, and we have seen how to install this editor. Then you should have AMPS installed. Make sure the Apache is on, the MySQL is on. Anyway, we're not going to use MySQL now, but make sure you're able to switch it on. Then you change your PHP to 7, right? That's the latest version. And then when you go to home page, you are able to access the AMPS admin page, and then you are able to access the AMPS home page. Okay, make sure both these pages are visible to you and you have no issues accessing them. So once all this has been installed properly, AMPS and Sublime, we will start and developing our PHP program. Welcome to the lecture on writing an Hello World program using PHP. So before we write the program, I want to run through with some of the basics of PHP. So let's look at what an Hello World program consists of. The PHP code that you write, make sure it is with a file name with extension of .php. Then only the PHP code will be executed. If you write phpx or .ph or .p or something else, it will not be executed. Make sure your file name extension is .php, which is considered as a PHP code. The second is how do you write a PHP code is basically between these two tags. These two tags are called as opening tag and a closing tag. If you know XML, then you have an opening tag and a closing tag. It's something similar to that concept, wherein your PHP code, whatever you write, has to have a starting point and an ending point, and they are called as opening tag and a closing tag. And how the opening tag will look like, it is less than symbol, question mark, the word PHP, then you have all your PHP code, then you end with question mark and greater than symbol. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do all these things, but this is basically the basics that you need to know before you write the code. The opening tag, which is less than question mark PHP, actually tells the server to start interpreting the PHP code. We know PHP is an interpreter, right? So when you write this code, this opening tag, it's actually PHP will start decoding the code and understanding whatever you have written inside the PHP. Similarly, the closing tag, question mark and greater than, server will stop interpreting the code. So whatever is the code available before and after this, means before the opening tag and after the closing tag, is not considered as PHP code. It is displayed as it is that you wrote into that code. All the PHP code should be inside this code. That's a basic general rule. Remember this, whatever you're writing outside this code will not be executed. It is displayed as it is. The source code itself is displayed onto the web browser because you are not writing inside this opening and the closing tag. Any PHP code written outside the block will be displayed as it is on the browser. We discussed this. Every statement should end with a semicolon. If you are from a Java background or a C background, you know everything should end with a semicolon. This basically indicated to the interpreter to say the code, the statement has been completed. So now I am writing to the next statement. And there are two methods, two functions, echo or print is basically a function which is used to print data on the browser. We're going to look into all these things, but take this as a guideline for you. So whenever you're writing an program, make sure you follow this and understand what is the prerequisite that you should know before writing the program. So let's look at a simple PHP code. We're going to still write this and then we're going to execute this, but before that I want to show you something. So everything you write PHP code should be inside this block, opening tag and the closing tag. And how do you display the text? You use a method called echo or print, and there's a semicolon here to indicate this is the end of the line, end of the statement. Similarly with print, you have used echo, now you can use print as well. We're going to look into all these things again, and there are various variations in how you print a text with echo. Opening tag, closing tag, and you can write echo on the same line. There's another short notation for it wherein you can use less than question mark equal to, and this less than question mark equal to is a short notation for less than question mark PHP echo. So instead of writing all this line, you can use this short notation. Okay, so remember this basic language syntax which will help you to write the PHP code. So next is the semicolon. It's kind of tricky. you need to remember that you can skip the semicolon for the last statement. So if you're writing a semicolon here, it's fine. If it's a last statement, means before closing tag, if it's a last statement, then you don't need to mention a semicolon. So we'll look into all these examples. So let's start and write one simple hello world program. Okay, so let's start building our hello world program using PHP. So before that, if you head over to the material, go to setting up the environment folder. Here you will find examples and exercises. Okay, and then there is a practical test. So what we are doing now is basically an example. Example is something I'm going to show you. Exercise is what I want you to try. Okay, so let's head over to the example folder. When you open this folder, you'll always find these two files. One is the deliverables and another is logical flow of examples. If you open these two files, this is basically the logical flow of how and what tags we are going to see as part of the example. And deliverables is the files that I'll create, and I'll try to explain you how these things are done. And these are the files will be available in the after folder. These are the same files, these are the deliverables, and you can refer back to these files with whatever example I'm going to show you here. So this way, even after you finish the course, or you have some clarification required maybe on semicolon, you can come back to this material and then you can refer back to the exact code and then you can reuse it. Okay, so what I want you to do is open this logical flow of example and open this deliverable. So as and when I'm doing it, you can just see what I'm doing first, then you can try out the same example. And if there's something you cannot get what I'm doing, you can always refer back to the after folder. This has the code that has been shown in this demo. Okay, so let's go ahead and create one by one all these examples. Okay, so let's start developing the programs. So before that, we'll open the deliverables file. Okay, this is a good reference for us to see what we are doing and what we want to achieve after this example. Okay, we'll be creating all these files. And this is the logical flow. This is how we're gonna build our examples. So let's open our Sublime and also make sure the amps is running. Okay, make sure it is. When you right click, it should be in the start mode, so you can able to restart and stop, and this option should be enabled for you. Okay, the first file that we're gonna create is called as hello world.php. Okay, so before that, I want to show you something. I want to show you where you're gonna save these files. Okay, so let's look at those configuration first. So in the D colon or C colon we have installed amps. Open the folder, go to www folder. In this I'm gonna create one folder called hello world. Okay, and in this I'm gonna place all my files. So how to access this folder, I'll show you once we write the file. So let's create a new file. Let's save this in this hello world program. Okay, and I'm gonna call it as hello world.php. Okay, so we have our files here, hello world.php. Okay, let's do our examples. So I make sure we see all these things what we are developing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to develop is display hello world with PHP tags. So we have understood that the opening tag should be less than $PHP, and the ending tag is basically greater than symbol. So anything that you write inside this block is called as PHP code, and anything that you write outside the interpreter will not take this code and will not interpret it. So the first thing is, how do you display hello world? So we have a function called echo. You can say hello world, and then you will end with a semicolon. Okay, so I have used single quotes. You can also use double quotes. Okay, it doesn't really matter if it's single quote or double quote. Okay, so save this. So how to execute this code now? Because you have amps installed now, so and you are able to access the amps as well. So open the browser, and what I want to do is I want to execute this code. So before that, what we can do, we can check localhost / the folder name hello world / hello world.php. Okay, there it is. That's the text that is being printed. Okay, couple of things here I want you to understand. First, in the URL we have given the folder name. That folder name is nothing but this folder name, which is under the www folder. So any folder that you create here, you just have to say localhost / and that folder name / the file name. You cannot skip the file name like this and say okay search and then show me, it's going to error out. You have to type in the file name, that is .php, and once you type that, whatever is the content of that PHP, it is interpreted, right? The text is interpreted and it is displayed onto the browser. So that's how the PHP will display a content, and this is happening at the AMP server. So AMP has PHP installed. So this PHP will convert this piece of code as an text onto the browser. So if you look at the code, there's a hello world and all these tags are not visible. The echo is not visible. It's basically converted into a HTML text, right? And what happens, just play around with it. What happens if I place outside the block? What will happen? Any wild guesses? What do you think what will happen now if I place the function outside the PHP code? So let's execute this, and you're gonna see the code here, because PHP doesn't really care what's outside the closing tag. It only want to know what is inside the PHP code, and then it only executes and interpret the code that is inside the PHP. Okay, that's why whenever you place anything outside your closing tag, will automatically display in the output. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. Okay, this will be our first example and first deliverable to print hello world onto a web page. And there are two ways you can use double quote and single quote. Okay, so let's move on. Next, we'll create hello world with a print function. Okay, I'm going to copy this, go to Sublime, say file new, save this file. I'm going to write the same thing, PHP opening tag, closing tag, and instead of echo, I'll do the same thing. And single quote. Okay, nothing fancy here. I have just created a file with hello world with print.php. Instead of echo, I'm using the print function, and everything remains the same. So let's execute that file now. Okay, the output is gonna be same. So I'll create one more tab. Okay, that's our first example, hello world.php. The second example is hello world with print.php. Next, we will create a hello world without an echo. So we will not use echo or print, but we will print hello world. Okay, so create a new file, new file, save the file, put the file name. Okay, so there is a short notation for it, less than question mark is equal to, and then you can start putting the hello world here. This less than question mark is equal to is actually equal to, instead of writing less than question mark PHP echo, right? What we have done is we have replaced this with this short notation, and whatever you're gonna write after it will be directly printed. So echo is already embedded here, and that echo will display this text. It's the same thing. You can use single quote now. Okay, and see here I'm not putting a semicolon, is also fine. You can put a semicolon, is also fine. So let's execute hello world without echo.php. So I'll copy this file name, localhost. Okay, it shows the same output, hello world and hello world. So we have seen display hello world with PHP tags. We have seen display hello world with print. We have replaced the opening tag with a short notation. So let's play around by removing some semicolons and try to execute that code. So it will be interesting to see when to use semicolon and when not to use a semicolon. So I'll create one more file here. File, new file. Let me save this file. Okay, so let's try to play around with the semicolons. So first example, we'll try to print hello world, and this time I will not put the semicolon, and I'll see what will happen. I'll use the same thing for single quotes. And I'll use the same method then I'm gonna say semicolon here, then I'll remove the semicolon here. Okay, so if you notice, I'm just playing around with semicolons. I did not put semicolon here, not here, even here I didn't put, but in the second line I put, then I removed the semicolon here. The interesting thing is, if you remove the semicolon, this one, it'll error out. I'm going to show you that. So let's execute this program. Then I'm going to play around with semicolons. So let's open that file name. Okay, so we have all these hello worlds here. If you remove this semicolon, you'll see an error stating, something is missing in the code, which is obviously a semicolon. The reason behind is it's okay to have in one line, the last line you should not have the semicolon. That is the rule. Means this is the last line, this is not the last line. So this should have a semicolon. So it's a tricky one. Let's say someone show you this code and say, guess what's the output? The output is an error because this line doesn't have a semicolon, as this line is not the last line. If you have the semicolon here, this is the last line, then it's perfectly fine. And if this is the last line, then you don't need a semicolon. And these lines basically are individual lines, right? This line has nothing to do with this line. So this is an opening tag and a closing tag. So this becomes the last line for this opening and closing tag. Okay, so understand how semicolon works. You can give semicolons to everything. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really care whether you're using semicolon or not. You're removing the semicolon, right? The rule here is the last line should not have semicolons. It's okay to ignore it. Okay, so that's on the semicolon. So next, let's show all the possible ways to display text. Okay, so we can try this out, but I'm going to show you one example here, then you can go ahead and do the examples. So we're going to create one more file, and then we're going to use both the notation. I'm going to use the PHP notation first. This we have learned of opening and closing tag. The first function we learned is hello, and using hello we can use double quote or single quote, doesn't matter. Welcome to PHP. Close it with a semicolon because I'm going to write one more line. Here you can say excited to learn this new language. You can ignore the semicolon here because it's going to be a last line. I'm not going to put semicolon here. Then I'm going to use a short notation here, and I'm going to say PHP is interesting. And you can use the same thing, use it with single quotes. Okay, and you can try out with a semicolon as well. It doesn't really hurt. And then you have all the examples here. You have echo, you have your opening tag and a closing tag, you have your echo function here, you have your print function here. Echo function ends with semicolon, print doesn't need because the last line. Then you have short notation which already have echo embedded in it. You don't have to end with a semicolon, and you can use single quote and a double quote. So let's execute this program just to verify it has no issues. Right, so everything works perfectly, no issues at all. So this is how you basically use echo and print and opening tag and closing tag and short notation to print text onto the browser. Okay, so before we close, I just want to let you know this code will be available part of your material. And if you head back to the material, which is under your materials folder, go to settings, setting up the environment, go example 1. After files is all the same files that I've shown here. Okay, you can use it for your exercise, and all these 2 files, variables and basically logical flow of example, is already available for you to practice. Okay, that's all for this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on writing comments in PHP. So in this example, we're going to learn how to write comments in our PHP code. Okay, so let's move on. So let's look at what are the types of comments that is available. There are 3 types. First is called as single line comments. The single line comment starts with 2 forward slashes. Then you have multi-line comments or block comments. It starts with forward slash asterisk, and it has ending tag, which is, then it has asterisk and forward slash. This basically indicating a block. So whatever write inside this starting and ending comments is basically hidden from the output. Then you have a single line C style comment. This is called as hash comment, where you put a hash symbol here, like an hashtag that you mention in Twitter, a similar hashtag, and then you can write your comments here. It's no difference between single line comments with double forward slash and single hash type. It's just to make sure if you're coming from a C language, you still have those kind of comments available. Okay, so let's look at when to use these comments. So if you're using single line comments, mostly it is used to quickly explain about one liner or a short note, right? It's just a one liner one. So it's quickly to explain. Let's say you're writing an add function to say, okay, this is an add function, it will accept 2 values, and then output will be addition of the 2 values. That's a single liner you can add to the add function. But you have a multi-line comments wherein starting off that PHP code, you want to write something called as documentation to say what this code is all about, who wrote it, when was the last change happen. That's basically explaining the version history of the code as well. You can even write about the flow of the code, like what this code has been doing. You can also write tracking history, like if you have the changes happening, you can mention your enhancement number or whatever ticketing number that you have. You can mention that in the multi-line comments and start documenting your PHP code. And also about the requirement, and you can say what this code is doing and why you actually did this. So what if there's a project or a project code, you can mention that because of this project code we actually implemented this file, and this file basically does. So if you want to write a big comments, then you have to go for multi-line comment. If you are explaining a single methods or a single statements, then basically you go for single line comments. Okay, so let's write these comments and play around with it, and let's have some fun with comments. So let's do the hands-on example for comments. Let's understand the 3 different types of comments that we have: single line, multi-line, and hashtag. So if you go to materials, If you have an example to comments in PHP, open that folder, open deliverables file and logical flow. Okay, so the logical flow is basically we're going to do 5 examples. First is show single line comments, then we'll show multi-line comments, then we'll show hash comments, then we'll show the error while using comments inside comments, then we'll compare HTML versus PHP comments. So we're going to create 6 files for this, and you can find all these examples in the after folder. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this example. So for this I will go ahead and create a new folder called comments. So I'll go to my d:\amps and I'm going to create a folder in www called comments. Okay, so we're going to create all the files inside this, and how I'm going to access this, I'm going to say comments and / whatever is the file name. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So for that, let's open Sublime and let's create the first file. That's basically single line comments. Copy this, save, change the folder to comments. I'm going to paste the same file name, save. Okay, so now the file is created. I'm going to minimize this and let's create the single line comments. So for this, I hope you have done the previous exercise, so you know how to show text onto the browser and using the both opening and closing tag and also the short notation for it. So I'm going to use the short notation here. I'm going to say PHP is interesting. Okay, I can use semicolon. Let's close this. So you can attach comments with 2 forward slashes and say print text. Okay, and I'm going to save this. You can even use the single line comments, the echo, when you are saying echo welcome to PHP. You can add in here, let's say this is echo method. I'm gonna resize this, or you can put a comment on top of it as well. Okay, both ways are fine. So let's execute this. There's a single line comment I'm putting inside the short notation, and also in the opening and the closing tag I'm using the echo, and I'm using 2 different ways to use the same single line comments. So let's print this. Okay, it's showing PHP is interesting, welcome to PHP. Let's analyze the code. And one interesting thing is there is no comments here. The comments is being ignored and comments will not be passed to the browser. So whatever commenting you're doing is only for your PHP code, right? It will not be displayed onto the browser. So you can type whatever you want, you can play around with it. You can put any secret thing that you want to put in the code. It will never be displayed to anybody. It's only when you open this PHP file, this PHP file comments is only visible to you. Okay, so let's do multi-line comments. Okay, so I'm going to create a file, multi-line comments.php. I'm going to use Control N to create a new file and Control S to save it. The file name is multi-line comments. Save it. Okay, so I'm going to write a multi-line comment. So we'll open PHP tags. So inside that I'm going to write the multi-line comments. I'm going to say this program is used to understand the types of comments in PHP. Okay, and if you observe, this will not be displayed onto the browser, but this is how you basically write a multi-line comment, and you can, whatever you write inside this block will be commented and will not be displayed in the output. It will not be used as a processing also. So let's use the same code here, and we'll convert the single line into a multiple line. So I'm just gonna say single line comment, say comments are fine here. I'm gonna convert single line into multiple line. Okay, so even you can use it as a single line, it's just fine. And I'm gonna comment this code. To comment this code, you can do this. Okay, make sure you don't put comments here outside of the PHP code, because we just discussed about this, that anything that you put outside the PHP code will be displayed as it is. Okay, so we don't want to do that. Okay, the comments will work only inside the PHP tags. Okay, so let's execute this. Okay, you're gonna see PHP is interesting, which is coming up from here, and you have all the comments which is not be visible in the output. Okay, so let's move on. Let's do the next example, that is showing the hash comments. So let's quickly create that file. I'm going to type PHP is interesting, and we can use an hash based comments here. Okay, and you can even use this. I'm just copying pasting just to save time. You can replace this with hash, you can replace this with hash. Okay, and everything is going to work as it is. Let's quickly run this. Okay, that looks fine. Next, let's create the comments of all types. Okay, let's quickly do this. Control N, Control S, paste the file name, press enter. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly do this. So we're gonna have the multi-line comment. And we're gonna close this. Then we're gonna use single line comments, and we'll say PHP is interesting. And then we can use hash based comments. You can use it here, or you can use it here as well. You can close this. Okay, so let's open this file. Okay, so this is the multi-line comment, single line comments, and hash based comments. Next, look at comments inside comments. So I'll show you one error here just to make sure you understand this concept. So I'm creating this file, error comments inside comments error file. This will be an error, and I want to show you the error. Okay, so let's focus on showing this error. Okay, so what we're going to do is, let's say we are having a multi-line comment. Okay, so we're going to say this is a multi-line comments. Okay, and I want to have one more comment inside a comment. Okay, I can have single line comments, and I can have hash based comments. Okay, now I want to have one more comments here. This is another comments, and now I want to close this comments. Okay, and once you do that, you see there's an error here. So I just want to have a multi-line comment inside a multi-line comment. Okay, and somehow it doesn't recognize my ending of the parent multi-line comment. It just ends the multi-line comments. All the multi-line comments that is open will be closed with one single multi-line comments, and that's why you have an error here. We're going to verify that. Let's open this file quickly. Okay, and you're going to have this error, and this error is already visible in the code editor here. It says that there's a missing comment somewhere. Okay, and you can have n number of single line and hash line. It doesn't really care. It only worried about multi-line comments, and multi-line comments, everything that you close, if you have many multi-line open comments and you have one closing, all the open multi-line comments are closed with a single closed multi-line, and thereafter if you try to close any other multi-line, it will give you an error. Okay, so make sure you understand this concept well. So many a times you will be writing like 1000 lines of program. Somewhere in the top you have opened the comments and you forgot it to close it, and then you start again a multi-line comment, then you will have errors like this showing that some of the multi-line comments are not properly closed. Okay, so let's do the final example. HTML comments versus PHP comments. So I'm going to create one more file here, HTML and PHP comments.php. For that, you need to know how an HTML comments look like. So this is how an HTML comments look like. This is HTML comments. Okay, and if you want to verify this, you can go and open this file. There's no output, but if you view page source, you can see the HTML comments here. There's a comment of HTML, so it's displayed it here as a comment, and in the output this value will not be there. And what is a PHP comment? We'll say hello. And this is a PHP comment, means it will not be displayed in the target side. Okay, so let's play around with it. What happens if you comment the PHP code? Okay, now I want to comment the PHP code. Let's see what happens. So what do you think will happen? Will this print the PHP code, or will this just show whatever is the code that has been printed? Okay, so let's see this. So this basically, if you look at view page source, so it's showing the output, right? it is showing will I be printed. It's the PHP code is executed properly, no issues, but it is commented because you are using HTML comments. So even though you put PHP code inside the HTML code, the PHP code will get executed first because the server will read the file, the PHP code, wherever it is there. It ignores whatever is outside. It doesn't really care is it a comment or it's a code or it's JavaScript or anything. It doesn't really care. It only cares about the PHP code, and whatever is inside the PHP code, it take this out and then put this code as an output and send back to the browser. So browser will see this. Okay, let's do another example. Now I will put the HTML code inside the echo and I'll say will I be printed. Let's mark it as 1. Let's mark it as second. And now guess what's the output. So will this be printed? The second one, what do you think? So let's go ahead and verify that. Okay, let's view source. So you see, even this has been printed. So you see the PHP code executes and print the comments, and the comments will now be understood by the browser. So whatever the PHP code is been executed, the output will only be understood once it is been given to the browser. It's nothing to do at the PHP side. It doesn't really care whether it's a HTML comment or HTML code or JavaScript. The purpose of PHP is to display. So it just display, it doesn't execute what is inside that code. Okay. The whole magic happens when this output is sent to the browser. The browser knows this is a code. This is an HTML comments. Okay, PHP doesn't know about it. For PHP, it's just in text. So let me give you one more example. These are all tricky one and good to know how this PHP behaves. So let's say I started a multi-line comment. Okay, and I say will I be printed 3. This is an interesting one. Okay, so have a multi-line comment starting here and ending it here, and have an HTML code, maybe a simple text outside the PHP block. So let's see what happens to this. Okay, nothing happened. This one is ignored, means it is ignored at the server level. This is treated as a comment and it's not been sent back to the browser. Okay, so this is the reason behind the PHP tags. Even though you write in different blocks, it understands the continuation that you're basically doing. If there is an multi-line comment started on top and you're writing the normal HTML or whatever outside your PHP tags, you're closing it somewhere else, it still remember that this is all PHP. Okay, it's good to know. Let's do a last one example, very quick. What happens if you comment this inside the HTML comments? What do you think will happen here now? Any guesses? What will be the output? So let's verify that. The HTML comments are displayed. The reason behind, we have seen in previous case that this one is completely ignored and not been sent to the browser. And if you have comments, anything on top of it, right, doesn't really care what's inside it, it just printed out to the browser. So understand it, how this actually works in PHP. Anything that you write inside the PHP block is executed first. Whatever is left over, whatever is outside your PHP will be given back to the browser. The browser take in charge and then it try to see whether it's an HTML comment. So the browser understand HTML comment. The PHP understand three types of comments: single line comments, multi-line comments, and hash-based comments. Okay, so that's all about the comments. I hope this example has cleared you different types of examples that we have shown on comments. So you can go to the after folder, you can find all these examples, and there will be many examples here, more than what I have shown, just to illustrate the same point here, and you can play around and have this as a reference. Okay, so that's it for this comment section, and I have some exercises for you to do. So I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome to the exercise section. So in the exercise 1, we're going to verify the installation step. So we have installed our PHP software. So this exercise will help you to see whether the installation is correct or not. We will do these following things to verify whether our installation is correct or not. Well, if you have installed AMPS, then you should be able to find that software and you should be able to start that software. Second, you should see the software icon in the task view buttons to make sure the software is running. Then you should be able to start and stop the software. This is a very key thing that you should learn, how to start and stop your software. Then you should be able to access the page at http://localhost. This is the URL that you should type in the web browser and you should see a welcome page. Next, we will find the installation directory where the software has been installed, and then we'll verify that folder. So I want you to do this exercise, and then once you finish your exercise or you're stuck, you cannot finish this exercise, you can continue watching it. So pause the video here, do this exercise, and then you can come back and play this video. Hello and welcome. So let's do the exercise. If you go to materials folder, setting up the environment, go to exercise 1, you should be able to find the text file. Okay, the step 1 is basically to able to find and start the software. So if you go to search and type AMPS, you should be able to find this software. Okay, that's your first task. Second one is see the software icon in the task view bar button. So if you click on the task view buttons, you should be able to see AMP software here. Right click and you should see all these options, and you should be able to start and stop. That's basically the third point. You should be able to start and stop the software. So if you right click on this, you should see start and stop, and you should be able to start and stop. Next is access the local host page. So if you go to this AMPS, you can go to home page. That's basically the home page of the AMPS. You should be able to see this page. And remember that when you go to localhost, there's nothing there. You just have to go to localhost AMPS. Okay, but make sure when you have localhost showing up AMPS, means the AMPS is properly installed on localhost. And when you want to access the AMPS dashboard, just type /AMPS to reach to the AMPS admin dashboard. If you type localhost, you will see the AMPS software. If you type localhost AMPS, then you should see the home page of the AMPS. So this is basically a way to verify whether the local host is properly working or not. Then you should be able to find your installation directory. If you remember correctly, we have installed in d:\amps, and if you have installed in program files, then you should be able to locate this folder. If you have installed in c:\amps, then go to c:\amps and verify all the files are available here as shown it here. And make sure you have MySQL, PHP, and basically Apache. These 3 folders are available for you to work with, and you have www folder. Okay, so next when we start writing the program, what we will be doing is we'll be opening up the AMPS, and we will be seeing whether all those services are running fine or not. Okay, so make sure you have these steps verified before you move on to the next step, and you have done this exercise to make sure you have a running PHP environment to start developing your PHP programs. Okay, that's all for this exercise. I'm gonna see you in the next lecture. Welcome to the exercise 2. Exercise 2 is about printing your name using PHP program. So whatever we have learned so far in the hello world, we will try to use those tags, and then we'll try to print your name on the web page. So here's what you're going to do in this program. You will print your name with echo function. You will write your favorite thing to do with a print command. Then print your hobbies with a special tag without using echo and print functions. Okay, so we're going to do this. Consider this as your written test. Imagine that you have gone to an interview, and then they have given this program for you to write on a piece of a paper. This is very simple program. You don't need a computer to write this, but you can have an hands-on section here. You can try out this section by writing on a piece of paper, or the highly recommended one is write in a Sublime and test it online, just to make sure and have a feel that you are able to pass this test. Pause this video and do this exercise. Then once you play it, then I'll show you how you're going to do it. Okay, so let me show you how it is been done, and I hope you have done this exercise and you pretty much know how the output should look like. If you go to materials folder, setting up the environment, you can find the exercise to print your name with PHP. So there are two files, deliverables and logical flow. We know what these two files means. One is the file that you will create, and whatever you have to do in that file is the logical steps are here. Okay, so let's open Sublime now. I'm going to close this and I'm going to create this file. Okay, and where I'm going to create in www folder. So for that, I'll go to amps www. I'm going to say exercise. Right, in this I'm going to create my folder. So I'll hit back to Sublime. I will save this file, go to one step back and go to our exercise folder that we have just created. This is the file name I'll create. Okay, so let me summarize this. Okay, so now what we have to do, we have to print your name with echo. Okay, we're going to do that. Echo. You can use single quote or double quote, whatever your choice, and you can write your name there, semicolon. So that's basically will print my name is Srini. Then you can print your favorite thing to do with print command. So head back, say print. My favorite thing is to watch movies. Okay, so this basically print my favorite thing. Next is print your hobbies with a special tag without using echo or print. So you cannot write that statement here. Okay, that will error out. Okay, you cannot embed the short notation inside the PHP notation. Okay, you have to write it outside the PHP notation. Okay, now you can print your hobbies here. Okay, so that's basically your hobby. So that's basically will do whatever has been told in the instruction. You print your name with echo, you have done that. You print your favorite thing to do using print, we have done that. Then you have to print your hobby with a special tag without using echo and print. So this is basically your short notation tag using which the output will be printed. Okay, so let's verify that. You go to localhost, exercise folder, and then you go to the file name, hello world me. So you can see your name, you can see my favorite thing to do, and that's my hobby. Okay, so this is how this exercise can be done. Okay, so that's all for this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the exercise 3. In exercise 3, we will use all the PHP tags that we have seen so far. Okay, so here what we're going to do, we're going to use all the PHP tags. We will use multi-line comments to describe about the program. Okay, second, you will use single line comment statement to describe that statement. Then you'll print your name without echo or print tag. You have already seen that. Describe yourself in one liner using echo or print. Okay, we have also seen this, but we will use all the tags together just to show that we know how to write a PHP program when this kind of questions is being asked. Pause the video here and do this exercise, and then come back here to check the answers. Okay, so let's do the exercise 3. If you go to materials, setting up the environment, go to exercise 3, you can find the logical flow and the deliverable. This is the file name we will use, hello comments, and these are the 3 statements, 4 exercise that we will do part of this exercise 3. Okay, first thing is we will create this file in the exercise folder. So go to Sublime, close this, Control N to create a new file, Control S to save the file. So I'm in the exercise folder. I'll just create this file. Okay, this is the first thing is use multi-line comment to describe about this program. So this program is to do this thing. I'll copy this out and I'll write multi-line comments. If you remember multi-line comments, so it starts with slash asterisk and ends with asterisk slash. Okay, so here is the description about the program. Okay, that's the first task. Then we'll use a single line comment to describe the statement. So the first thing is you print your name without an echo tag. Okay, so that's a name without the echo or print, and I will write the comment. Okay, so this one has achieved 2 and 3, wherein I print my name without echo and print tag, and also I have used single line comments to denote that statement. Next is describe yourself in one line using echo or print. So I'll say about me. I'll use echo tag. You can use print or echo. I'll say I love PHP programming. I'll do it without semicolon just to show that I know there's no requirement of semicolon here. Okay, so couple of things we have done. We have used multi-line comments, we have used single line comments, we have print your name without the echo tag, and you have described yourself using the echo and print tag. Okay, so let's access this file. To access this file, this is hello comments.php. You go to the same exercise folder, copy this file name. Okay, so you should see the my name is Srini, I love PHP programming. That's basically coming up from these two print statements. Okay, so that's all for this exercise. Do these exercises so that you are very clear about what you have learned in this section, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on certification tips. Here we're going to cover only the tips that is related to certification. We're not going to cover all the things that we have seen previously, but I'll scope it down to the key things that you have to remember when you're attending a certification. This is also helpful when you're writing for a written test. It will be a tricky question that may be asked in the written test. So let's jump into and understand all those certification tips. The first is the PHP tag. The PHP tags are basically 4 types. Opening tag and the closing tag is 2 that we have seen and 2 we haven't seen. That's basically the less than question mark and question mark greater than, and then you have a script tag. We will be only using this 2, will not be using the other 2. The reason behind is PHP 7 doesn't support these 2 tags. So only the top 2 that has been highlighted is supported from PHP 7 onwards. From in PHP 5.5 you were having 4 tags. In PHP 7 they minimized to 2 tags. So remember this, if they are referring in PHP 7 and they are referring to these 2 tags, then there is a chance that they are tricking you to say whether these are supported in PHP 7 or not. Okay. Next is the semicolon. The terminate statement with a semicolon, don't forget that. Sometimes they remove it. That's reason because if it's a last line then they might remove it, but for every statement you need to have a semicolon. And also remember, the last statement line does not require a semicolon. This code will compile perfectly even though the semicolon is not there, so don't get confused when you see this kind of code wherein the last line doesn't have semicolon. It's okay to be leaving out the semicolon here. Then the semicolons, there are different combinations available. I want you to have a look at it. The first one you have semicolon, the second one doesn't have a semicolon, the last one doesn't have the question mark greater than symbol. The reason behind is the last statement line does not require a semicolon and nor the greater than question mark greater than closing tag. You don't need that closing tag. If it's a plain PHP code, means there are no other source code available on that page, means you can only leave out the question mark and greater than symbol. Okay. Then the comments, there are 3 types of comments: single line, multi-line and hash based comments. Make sure you understand this syntax very well, so that next time when you see a PHP code and someone asks you to guess the output, you can able to check all these things before you actually tell the answer. Okay, so that's all for this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the summary section. In this section, we're going to do a recap on what we have learned in setting up the environment in this section. Then we'll summarize what you should be able to do after this section. So let's do a quick summary. First, we have looked at LAMP, MAMP and WAMP installation stack. So you should be able to define this if someone asks you what is a WAMP stack, right? Then we have looked at code editor versus IDE software. So you should differentiate what is the difference between two. If someone asks you which editor that you have used, then you can always ask them whether it's a code editor or an IDE. So just a quick recap on what is code editor. Code editor are basic editors, easy to start coding with. IDE has some learning curve but very flexible for complex coding. Then we have download and install AMP software to run our PHP code. We have written and run a hello world program using PHP. And we have also seen how to comment the PHP code using comments in PHP. So I believe you should be able to explain all these things and understand how these things work. And you should be pretty much start writing your PHP code here onwards. And you should not have any installation softwares. You should not be confused about your editors. You should be able to write your code. You should be able to know a basic syntax of the opening tag, closing tag, semicolons, and very basic commenting. You should know all these things before you go to the next lecture. If you're not clear, I'll highly recommend take your time, go back, do this exercises that I've given you, get to know the PHP first, get to know the installation done on your laptop or your machine, then move ahead to the next lecture, because next lecture will be focusing more on that topic instead of looking at the installation and syntaxes. Okay, so let's do a quick summary again on the objectives that we have seen previously. The first thing is types of installation software we have seen. So you should be able to define the type of installation softwares. You should be able to configure PHP on Windows, Mac, and also choose your PHP editor. And then you should be able to develop your own hello world program, write some comments in it. Okay, so there are some exercises again given in this section, some interview question, resources and test. Don't skip it. If you are planning to just skip all this section, I highly recommend don't do it. Just go through all these exercises. It's very much tuned and focused towards what you have learned. There's no out of scope from the interview questions, and also from the exercise is very focused on what you have learned. So do take it so that you get to know the concepts very well. So that's all for this section. I'll see you in the next one.